let's get to work. This thing's filthy, absolutely filthy. So first thing we're going to do is remove all the light bulbs. Next thing we are going to do is remove the printed circuit here. 2267, 12/22/67, so December 22nd, 1967 was when this cluster was manufactured. So this printed circuit board material can lift right off. And that's that. Our temperature and amp... Oh, a little spider nest. Former spider nest. Okay, and there is our temp and amp gauge. Now our oil pressure and nothing gauge. The oil gauge we will have to replace into the new housing. Okay, it was a little tight. Okay, and there's our oil pressure gauge, 80 pounds. And now our fuel gauge, which I will do this off camera, but I am going to remove these resistors and clean the connections on them, just in case we have a corrosion problem. Okay, and there is our fuel gauge, our temperature indicator, and our something else indicator. What's the other one? That's our brake indicator. So to remove our speedometer, which is the entire reason why I'm doing this in the first place. Otherwise I would have just left it alone, but driving around with a speedometer that goes is very annoying, especially when you do not have a radio. We'll set these screws up to the side, as I believe we will be needing those for the new installation, as I don't think the kit came with any sort of fasteners other than those to hold the tack on. Alright, so let's lift this out. Yes, we have our little green lenses and these little cardboard tubes here that we will be needing to reuse. Would have liked to replace the cardboard tubes with something else. Well, these were working and they should, well, that one's kind of split. Hopefully they'll work. Little gaskets here, which probably aren't really needed, but we'll save them anyway. Alright, and here's our speedometer. Well, that's interesting. It has stamped on the side, miles assembled, 6457897. Oh, I wonder if this is a replacement. This speedometer has probably been replaced in the past. So that would probably be added to the mileage on here. So to remove the speedometer, we now have to remove these two screws in the back. Alright, got that out. Rubber pad here, and our two grommets. I decided I was going to wipe the gauges, or clean the gauges a little bit. So I figured, well, you know, it's probably going to be safe if I just go ahead and take damp paper towel. Not the case. As we can kind of see on our gauge here. Well, I don't know if you can see that or not. the paint actually started to smear a bit. Luckily that is cleaning off with a dry paper towel and does not look to be like there is any permanent damage. And I'm guessing that is just because of oxidation. I am guessing that originally the scale, I guess you could call it, is kind of like a blue, like seafoam green-ish color, whereas the scales on the original gauges are practically white. If you look at the needles on the gauges, very different in color. What I've decided to do is I'm going to attempt to remedy that. I found this at Walmart, and while it is not quite the same color, it's not as red, it should brighten it up a little bit. And while I did the gauges, I decided to do the hot indicator as well, and as you can see, it made quite a mess, but we're going to touch that up here in a second. The little hot indicator was crusty. It had no color to it anymore. So I kind of just scraped it off with a toothpick, dabbed on some of the orange paint, and there we go. I had this running with my drill probably to about 80 miles an hour, maybe 88 miles an hour, not sure. But yeah, no noises, so I think we're good as far as this goes. First of all, we're going to have to remount our oil pressure gauge and the vacuum gauge. This is the plate that came with the kit, and here's our vacuum gauge. So we'll just thread that on there, and we'll tighten it up later. And our oil pressure gauge. Goes fit, there it fits, and we have the retaining nut on the back of that. So we have our new backing plate here, so we have our tack here, and that fits in from the back side. Like that. And we have 3 screws that we need to install, which came with the kit. Now let's get our speedometer installed. So we have this little rubber grommet here that is going to go in like how? Let's see, where's our speedometer? It's going to go the other way. That. No. Yes. Yes. No. Yes. We're forgetting something. The red lens for our high beam. Speedometer is in. Let's go ahead with the fuel gauge. Just strip. Next! Alright, well, gonna have to apologize because at some point during the reassembly of this, the battery in my camera died. So it's back together. What I did to clean up the terminals a little bit is the washer that sits against the contact. I just took old emery board here and did one of those on the one side of the washer until it was nice and shiny. I also replaced all the bulbs, standard Sylvania bulbs. I kind of picked the middle of the range, the 3.8 watt. But we'll have to install the harness for the tachometer in the truck, which this lead here just runs to the negative of the coil. This right here connects into here, and this right here splices into presumably an existing connector under the dash, so we'll have to try to find that. So overall it looks pretty good. Now all that's left is to take it out to the truck and see how it works.